The date is April 19th, 2026. The location is the Michigan Flight Museum. The time is 1 p.m. Today, the person being interviewed is James Alford. Jim was born January 14th, 1946, and he served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. The interview is being conducted by Jeff Hoffman. The interview is being video captured by Gary Delisle. The interview is being conducted on behalf of the Oral History Program at the Michigan Flight Museum at Belleville, Michigan. Good afternoon, Jim.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank you on behalf of the Oral History Program for permitting us to conduct this interview with you today. Would you please tell us where you were born?
I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And who are your parents and what did they do?
My father's name was James Alford. My mother was Mary Milks Alford. Mother was a primarily stay-at-home mom. I had myself and 4 sisters, so that kept her pretty busy. Dad was what we called nowadays a family physician. At the time, he was called a country doctor.
Yeah.
Did house calls, etc.
Your brothers and sisters, do any of them serve in the military?
I only have sisters, and
sorry.
No, none of them did. I did have one sister that demonstrated against the Vietnam War, which was her right and her choice.
Yeah, yeah. While you were over there?
Yeah. She's part of that March on Washington in 1969?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's probably in some reels of video. Do you recall the high school you attended?
I attended Druid Hills High School in Atlanta, Georgia.
I know that one. Did you hold down any jobs before you entered the Army?
I did. I actually was on the crew that opened the first McDonald's restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, while I was in high school. And we had a crew that just really clicked, and so they moved us to different stores as they opened those up around Atlanta. So, yeah, that was probably my first real job. I mean, prior to that, I cut grass, did lawns, and I was a garbage collector at a resort. I did that when I was 12, just so I could drive the Jeep around while I picked up the garbage at various cottages and the hotel.
So as you're contemplating military service, how did your family feel about military service back in those days?
My family has a history of serving in the military. I had uncles, my dad that served in World War II. I had Dad and 3 of his brothers. 2 went to Europe, 1 was a Marine Raider. He went to Pacific, and he got killed. So Dad was the youngest of the 4, and the Army took over his medical school. So he served in the military, but they kept him in the States, I think because of his brother being killed, and he had 2 other brothers in Europe fighting, so they kept him in the States. But my family was, to continue, then I had cousins that served in the Korean War, and then I had cousins and myself that served in the Vietnam War. So our family had a history of serving the country.
Okay. How did you get involved with the Army? Did you enlist?
No.
Were you called? Were you drafted?
I was called. Not exactly. I was in college. I was in my second year of college and not doing well, but having a lot of fun. And
what college were you in?
I was at the University of Georgia.
Georgia in Athens? Okay.
Yeah, and Dad I guess it was the dean of students decided I'd be better off probably in the military than I was in the streets of Athens, Georgia. So Dad picked me up and drove me to the recruiting station.
You're about 20 years old now?
Yeah, I was about 20. Drove me to the recruiting station in Atlanta, and I had a choice. I could volunteer, or I could volunteer to join or to volunteer for the draft. And if I volunteered for the draft, I would only be in for 2 years. If I volunteered for the military, I'd be in for 3 years. So I chose the 2-year option.
No kidding.
And I was thinking about this, you know, I wasn't afraid of going in the service at that time, but I didn't want to go to Vietnam. So it wasn't a matter of trying to avoid the service, it was trying to avoid Vietnam. So I spent my Army career trying to avoid going to Vietnam.
You went to Georgia, didn't they have an ROTC program there?
They did. I think that might have been the only course I passed.
Oh, you were in ROTC then?
Just, you had to take
2 years.
You had to take 2 years
Yeah.
ROTC
Same here.
at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
But then after I got drafted, when I was in basic training, they said, "Oh, you're a college guy," so they made me a platoon sergeant, which was not a good choice.
Promotion, a spot promotion.
Yeah, not a good choice. But so anyway, so I did go in and went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia.
You didn't even leave Georgia.
Didn't leave Georgia. And then after Fort Benning, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri,
Okay.
for advanced individual training as an engineer.
Oh, that's like AIT?
AIT,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And as I was about to complete AIT, they asked if anybody wanted to go to officer candidate school, and that's when my second step to avoiding being in Vietnam. I said, "How long would that take?" And they said, "About a year."
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure, I'll go," thinking the war would be over.
Yeah, it'd be protested over.
So I went to engineer officer candidate school, and I chose engineers because I didn't want to be in the infantry and I didn't want to be in the artillery. I wanted to be in something safe, and I thought that would be the engineers. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I got trained in AIT that the engineers usually went in before the infantry, which was a little...
What a way to learn.
That's one of the many decisions.
Wasn't in the brochure?
No. One of the many decisions I made that didn't turn out to be in my favor.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went to officer candidate school, and I was about to finish officer candidate school when they called me down to the orderly room and said, "You can't become commissioned." And I said, "Why not?" They said, "Because of all your ailments and issues." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they pulled out the form or a copy of a form that I'd signed or done when I was 18. Back then, everybody had to go in and get a physical.
Yeah.
And so I had marked yes on asthma, walk in my sleep, wet the bed, everything I marked yes to, I marked yes. And so I said, "Well,
They take it today."
I said, "Does that mean I get out of the Army?" And they said, "No, it just means you can't be commissioned." So I said, "What's it take to correct this? If I'm going to stay in, I want to be commissioned." And they said, "Well, you need a note from your doctor." So I got on the phone, called Dad, and he had a friend down the hall, and they wrote a letter saying those are all childhood ailments, and
Yeah. You were cured.
I was cured. Miracle. So I got my commission, and right before I got my commission, they said, "Does anybody want to go to flight school?" And I said, "How long will that take?" He said, "About a year."
Another year.
Sure. Why not?
You love that 1 year thing.
So I thought, well, that'll get me out of the Army before, Vietnam would be done. So I was accepted to flight school.
And what year is this? 67 or so?
This was 67.
67, okay.
Yeah, 67. So I finished up officer candidate school, and then I had about a 6-month wait for flight class to open up. So I was accepted to flight school, but I had to wait for a class. And there were 3 of us that went through officer candidate school together that going to flight school, and that was 2 good friends of mine. So we got an apartment together in the DC area as we were, one was a general's aide. Bob McKelvey was a general's aide. Curtis Fitzgerald was assigned to the post supply at Fort Belvoir. And I was assigned to be a platoon leader for AWOLs and deserters. So, So yeah, I mean, and we were three young second lieutenants having
Yeah.
a pretty good time in D.C. And so the AWOLs and deserters, it was interesting because a third of them were there, a third of them were AWOL, but we had their names, and the other third were in prison, serving sentences for whatever. But the guys that were there, it was coming up Christmas time, so I thought, well, let's decorate the company area and you know, bring their spirits up a little bit. So I found some holly bushes out on post, so I took a crew out there and we cut down enough holly, get enough holly limbs and stuff that we could go back and decorate the posts. Which
You're still at Belvoir here?
still at Belvoir.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
In Washington.
Platoon leader there.
Okay.
And I got home that night, and Bob, who was the general's aide, was just tearing his hair out. You know, I said, Bob, what's wrong? He said, the general planted a whole bunch of holly bushes so when he retired, he'd have them to move to his property. And somebody went out there and cut, you know, a good chunk of them out. He said that when they find that person, you know, he'll never see daylight again. Yeah. Bob, I think I have something to tell you here. And so Bob called the general, and General Seelock was a great guy. I mean, he looked after the lieutenants and stuff. Anyway, he called, I explained the situation to General Seelock, and he wasn't happy, but he forgave me, I guess, and so life went on.
You could have easily blamed it on somebody in your platoon with their records.
Right, yeah. So anyway, life went on,
okay.
But as a second lieutenant, I mean, it was just interesting that that's probably my only leadership position while I was in the service. And then, I mean, when I first went in there as a second lieutenant, I was in the orderly room, the first sergeant was there, big guy, and one of the people came in and asked a question. I tried to answer it, and the sergeant said, Lieutenant, why don't you just sit there and not say anything, and I'll answer the question. Probably the best advice I got in the Army.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I left there then and went out to Fort Walters, Texas for primary helicopter school.
Yeah.
And
was there a trainer that you flew first before helicopters, or you trained on helicopters?
Trained on helicopters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We went immediately into helicopters, and we had an instructor, and obviously the first thing you had to do is learn to hover them, and that was tricky. I didn't think it ever happened, but it did, and it's kind of like didn't work, and then one day I could hover.
So were you on board with the flight instructor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Two
of you then.
Two of you.
Okay.
And he would take a helicopter and he'd do nothing and it'd sit still. I'd take it, and I couldn't have held it over, you know, Willow Run Airport at the time. And but all of a sudden one day, you know, things clicked and it worked. And once you hovered, you could fly, because if you can hover a helicopter, you can fly a helicopter.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up soloing with about 10 hours of flight time.
Okay. So when did you go to Fort Rucker?
So after primary,
That was
primary. So after primary, I went to Fort Rucker for more advanced training and to transition into the Huey, and advanced tactical flying and that sort of instrument flying, that sort of thing. And an interesting story, at Fort Rucker, when we first took off, two students would fly it. One would be the map reader, and the other guy would be flying Huey. And we took off, and I happened to be the map reader that day. I said, you know, when we get to the river, then we do what I didn't know. The Huey was twice as fast as the trainer.
Oh.
And, you know, just a whole different animal. And I'd already crossed the river before I looked or told him to tell me when we get to the river. And Of course, I was looking at the map. I wasn't looking outside. And finally, we'd flown around enough that fuel was getting low. And so I radioed back to Fort Rucker and said, you know, we're somewhere and we need to get a vector back to Fort Rucker.
The map reader is saying that.
Yeah. And so they said, do you see a water tower? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, go down and fly around the water tower and tell us where you are. So we flew around, Y-O-R-T. I said, we're over York, Alabama. He said, fly the other way, you're over Troy, Alabama. And anyway, so they vectored me in from Troy, and then another guy in a helicopter, I heard him saying, and I think it's because I kind of opened the communication line, you know, somebody else needed help. So he called and he said he didn't know where he was. And the guy, he said, well, do you see anything? He said, yeah, there's a big lake here. They said, can you see the other side? And he said, no. And he said, well, you must be over the Gulf of Mexico, so you need to turn north.
Don't keep
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know how many helicopters would take off and land and at these training, you know, Fort Rucker or Fort Walters, but I mean, it was a bunch of young fledgling aviators out there. And it's a wonder we didn't have all kinds of mid-airs and everything else, but somehow it worked. And
so were these training Hueys or combat Hueys?
well, the Huey's a Huey.
Okay,
The
so
only
it
difference
wasn't specially prepped for
but
training.
these didn't have guns mounted on them.
Yeah.
But they were the same thing.
Okay.
They were probably A, C, D models.
Okay.
And when I first got to Vietnam, we were flying D models over there, and then they did some changes and called them an H model, and a little more powerful engine, that sort of thing.
So now that you're doing aircraft instruction and flights, did you ever go to jump school?
No, there's no reason to jump that I could. I mean, it's like later life people said, "You ever fly a glider?" And I said, "Not intentionally." You know, if you have a motor, use it.
So did they certify you on a particular aircraft, like the Huey that you were in?
I was certified in the Huey, and I was certified in several of the trainers also, and because between tours I was a flight instructor,
right.
instrument, and then when I got to Vietnam, they certified me in the OH-6 or the Loach. So I flew Hueys and Loaches my first tour.
Okay, and which fixed wing, the trainers, you flew those fixed wing?
Fixed wing, not till after my first tour, and I was a flight instructor, so I went through fixed wing school in 1971, the end of 71.
Between your two tours?
Between tours, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any advanced training or qualifications and certification at this time?
No.
Okay.
No, just the regular rotary wing training.
So you've been in the Army for a little while now. How difficult was it to adapt to military lifestyle? From the University of Georgia.
It was a little more structured, I guess. I didn't have a bad. Once I got through basic training, I guess basic training was probably the worst. That was the biggest jump. But after that, then I pretty much adapted. OCS was pretty difficult the first few weeks. I mean, they were really putting the pressure on you, trying to weed you out if you couldn't take it.
Yeah, filtered.
Yeah, but once I got out of officer candidate school, when I was in the States, it was pretty much like a day job, 8 to 5. I mean, because as a officer going through flight school, we lived off post, and they'd say, be here at a certain time for classes or flying.
Liberty time, and
we would, and weekends we were free. So the warrant officer candidates that went through flight school, they were kind of a combination of officer candidate school and flight school, or we'd already done the officer candidate school part.
So when did you receive orders?
For Vietnam?
Yeah.
As I was finishing up flight school.
Oh, right about, okay.
I was on orders for Vietnam. Okay. Yeah, so finished up in November, and then my orders were to leave for Vietnam like the 28th of December or something like that.
1968?
68,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
How did you get there?
I flew. I mean, I lived in Atlanta at the time, and
Yeah.
just caught an airplane to probably San Francisco, and then caught a flight
This is all
from
commercial?
there. It was commercial to San Francisco, and then after that, I think it was Flying Tigers.
Oh, okay.
Or one of those.
Yeah.
It was probably commercial, but the military used them all. So we left San Francisco, and the first tour I went up through Alaska, and then Korea, and then into Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
And
The big arc.
yeah,
Extra miles that way.
it still didn't take nearly long enough to get there as it should have.
You were hoping it'd take longer.
Right.
And any adventures all the way? I mean, you must have. They weren't nonstop flights, were they?
No, we stopped in Anchorage, and then we stopped in Korea, and then we stopped in the final stop in Vietnam. So that was pretty uneventful, going over.
So what?
I went back and forth. Well, yes, there was an adventure on the way over. I'd gotten married October 5th
Oh,
to Janet, and
just 2 months before you left.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we dated since we were 16 years old,
Oh, okay.
and on and off, and we decided we'd get married. She graduated from college that spring,
Yeah.
and we decided we'd get married, I think like in September. And then it was, do we get married now or do we wait till I get back? And we decided to get married then. So we got married October 5th. And as I was getting on the plane to go to San Francisco, we realized there was a stop in Las Vegas. So she said, here's a quarter, put it in the slot machine. And so we stopped. Back then, you could run off the plane. There was a slot machine right in the
Airport.
airport.
Yeah.
So I went in, put the quarter in the slot machine, and hit the jackpot.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, what do I do? It's like the movie, so I scooped it all into my hat, took it up and cashed it in. And up to that point, I was pretty sad leaving her, leaving family and everything.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, wow, maybe I'll have a lucky year. So, so I got back on the plane, and the stewardess came by and I said, hey, I got to just tell you, I won the jackpot. She said, so?
She hears up.
She could care less.
Everything. Or cares. Yeah.
Right, but anyway,
She did hit it. So
that was my big adventure going over.
So you went Korea, then to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So what combat unit were you connected with over there?
Well, I first went in. I went to the I forget what they call it now, but where they assign you in place in Vietnam. So I had no idea what unit I was going to. I was just assigned.
It didn't, on your orders, it didn't have anything.
I was just assigned to Vietnam. I could have gone into CAV. I could have gone anywhere. But they assigned me to the 20th Engineer Brigade at Benoit. And that's...
Is that your shoulder patch?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. You got something right.
And so...
Now we're in 1969, right?
That was January, yeah, 69.
Okay.
So I went to the 20th Engineer Brigade, and I served there primarily flying engineers around to visit their troops out in the field, to look at bridges, to look at roads. We'd low level, down a road, to look at it. It's part of what I did with the Scout, the Loach. We do convoy security, or we, just flying above them to make sure that they turned at the right corner, and in case you got any enemy fire or anything, we could help suppress that, and get them organized. And then we do resupply and medevac for the engineers as needed. I mean, we weren't a medevac unit, but if we were in the area and somebody's hurt, we'd pick them up.
You could at least go in and retrieve them.
You're right.
Yeah, okay.
And
So what were you flying here? These were the Hueys too?
Hueys and Loaches.
Loaches, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we do resupply. The engineers, it seemed like, as I look back, they seemed to run out of ammunition a lot.
Oh.
So I don't know if they didn't carry as much as the infantry or weren't as resupplied as much, but we got a lot of calls where they were surrounded and about out of ammunition, and so we'd have to go out. And at the time, I didn't think much about it.
You had to go out and cover for them? You had to go out and cover for them because
had to take ammunition to them.
Oh, you actually.
So they actually land and
that was kind of dangerous, wasn't it?
I thought so. and that unit, we didn't have gun support. So if we went out,
wasn't like an assault.
No, it'd be a single ship.
Engineering,
It'd be a single ship, and we'd just have to go in. And I remember one mission we were going out there. They were out of ammunition, and the clouds were pretty low, and I didn't want to go in below the clouds because you wanted to stay at least 1,500 feet above ground for small arms fire.
Yeah.
So I talked to the guy on the radio that was there, and I said, when you hear me go over, let me know. And I was tracking him a little bit, so I knew the line, but I wasn't sure exactly the location.
Yeah.
So he said,
This is always daytime or daytime and nighttime?
this particular one was daytime.
Okay.
And so I was above the clouds. He said, and I said, how high is the ceiling? He said, ceiling's probably 500 feet or so. I said, okay, when I go over, you tell me when I'm over you. And I'm going to come down through the cloud, and you tell me which way to turn when you see me come out so I can land.
So how are you communicating? Are you using call signs or?
Yeah, I mean, I was Castle, whatever aircraft number was.
So recognizable call signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, he told me, and so I went down through the clouds, and he told me where to turn, so I landed. And,
yeah. So minimum exposure going right to the ship.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway, that was one mission. We had another mission at night. They ran out of ammunition, and this was at night, and they were on a bridge, and they were surrounded. So it was one of those classic landing to a flashlight out there.
How'd you know it was a friendly flashlight?
It was, and
were they doing code or any signs or?
Well, I talked to him about radio,
okay,
and I had a pretty good idea it was him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's I had been drinking, and this emergency call came in, and the CO said, I want you to go with me because I had the instrument training because I was a instrument IP.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to go with me. I said, I'm not sure that's a good idea. He said, you don't have to fly, just go with me, be there. I said, well, okay. So we got out there, and it was pitch black and this little flashlight. He said, you take it in.
On instruments, because it's
well,
dark.
it wasn't on instruments, I mean, almost instruments, but he said, you did the landing.
I mean, you can't use landmarks.
No. I said, okay, so I took it in and landed, and we unloaded the ammunition and whatever they needed. And
so how much is that? How much ammunition? Is that quite a load of cargo there? Or?
Yeah, I forget what the cargo is, probably 1,000 pounds of ammunition. Or so.
That's probably as much as you could carry then, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were maxed out.
Oh, okay.
And,
no fooling around, give them everything.
Yeah, give me that. I didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
So anyway, I emptied it, and we unloaded everything, and I took off, and he said, I better take it back over because you're flying out to sea. I mean, because it was pitch black.
Yeah.
I was kind of
the sea looks the same as the.
I was disoriented at the time, so he turned us around, and we headed back to Benoit.
Okay.
But
so you were based at the Army base in Benoit?
Yeah, at the we flew out of the Castle pad there.
That looks familiar.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's the base.
Yeah,
the airfield's at the lower part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we flew out of there, and the 20th Engineer Brigade headquarters was there.
Right.
So
yeah.
So we were right near that.
Okay. That was pretty close to Saigon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, what they used to call Saigon.
right.
It's Ho Chi Minh City
Ho Chi
now.
Minh City.
Yeah.
So I flew out of there for a year. I flew with the 20th Engineer Brigade, and I flew all of 3 and 4 Corps wherever we needed. Engineers would build and support the special forces. We'd go into some of the special forces camps and
Okay.
Montagnard villages. I mean, wherever there was a road, an airstrip, or
Yeah.
a gun emplacement, we flew there.
You didn't really build that many bridges, did you?
No, not a lot, but I mean, down in the Delta, it was more.
Oh, down there where
it
there's
was
a lot
more
of water, a
important
lot
than
of
up north. Yeah.
need for bridges. Oh, okay. Okay.
So, but I mean, I got an interesting view of all of South Vietnam,
Okay.
or that part of it.
So these missions, I mean, how far from the base did you have to fly to supply some of these guys?
You know, it depended. One might be 10 miles.
Okay.
Uh,
But there wasn't necessarily a demarcation of enemy line because of the nature of the war, right?
right,
I mean, they were all over the place.
right. So if it was, say we were flying a mission down the Delta,
Yeah.
we'd probably fly to an army post down there, refuel, and then do our whatever we were doing down there, refuel, and then fly back to Benoit.
Okay.
Others we'd be in and out of Benoit refueling and resupplying. So it kind of depended on where it was and what was needed. But we flew right up to the borders, all along the Cambodian border.
Oh, that's where the Delta ended, or South ended in Cambodia.
Yeah.
But not up in Laos, or you didn't go into
No.
Laos at all. Okay.
Not that I know of. I wasn't the best.
Could have been that same day that you,
I was the best navigator. I actually got a caricature that they gave me when I left. It said, "The good captain always knows where he is," which
not everybody got that, huh?
no, that was unique.
So did you practice any recovery exercises in case the aircraft failed or was struck?
Yeah, every 90
Shot
days.
down?
Yeah, every 90 days we'd go through a review where we'd shoot auto rotations
Okay.
and do different emergency stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So what weapons were you certified to carry yourself? Personal weapons?
I carried a 38 for no apparent reason.
Really?
I carried a 38
Yeah.
pistol.
Pistol, yeah.
I actually tried to shoot it once. I noticed the rounds were getting a little rusty, and so we were parked near the Saigon River, so I threw a can in the river.
Oh, to shoot at it?
to
To
shoot-
see if the gun worked, huh?
I missed the entire river, I think. I couldn't shoot that. I was qualified in expert in a rifle from basic training.
Yeah.
But what my personal weapons was a 38. I carried a 12-gauge shotgun and either an M79 grenade launcher or an AK-47, typically.
Okay. These are all on the aircraft with you?
Yeah, they're all hanging.
Oh, they were mounted. Okay.
No, they were hanging on my
Oh,
seat,
okay.
so I could grab them on the way out.
Okay. Okay.
The aircraft itself, when I flew for the 20th Engineer Brigade, they had 2 M60s, one on each side. The crew chief and the gunner were.
Oh, mounted on the aircraft.
The Loaches I flew were not armed at all, so just personal weapons.
Yeah.
So if it was going to go into an area that was a little risky,
You wouldn't
there'd be a person with a M16.
Okay. Okay. Case, well, okay. Can you describe the conditions of your aircraft as far as how maintenance, availability, spare parts, the crews repairing the aircraft? How did that go?
I think it was every 25 hours they'd go in for a maintenance inspection.
So you did have repair crews. You had access to spare
Yeah,
parts
we had.
and repair.
Yeah, I mean that was not a problem. They had really good aircraft maintenance, air crews, and there probably was some civilian technical people doing it also.
Oh, okay.
And the aircraft were really maintained. If you had a problem, they didn't force you to fly. I mean, if you felt like when you went out pre-flight, the aircraft wasn't.
Oh, so
wasn't
you
good,
checked it over and would do an acceptance or not, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
right.
So you never had to fly any damaged or aircraft that needed repair.
Not going out.
Well, yeah, coming back sometimes.
Coming back sometimes, yeah. But no, the maintenance was great. The crew chiefs were great. I mean, they really kept it all together for us. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, yeah. So you got there and you left in December and got there in early '69. So wasn't there a mini Tet Offensive in January?
Yeah,
Not as big as the previous year, which was the massive one, but
right there was a small one, and I know when we were at Benoit, we'd sit on the bunkers and watch the Air Force dropping bombs and stuff around.
Yeah.
You know, but we personally weren't a combat assault unit, so we weren't involved in combat assaults to suppress that. Other units around us were doing that.
Yeah. So did you do some recovery of people that had been injured? And,
yeah, if we were in the
did you have to go back to hospitals, things like that?
Yeah, if we were in the area and we got, there was a call on guard that said, we need a medevac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If we were in the area, we would. I got a call one night, evening, I was flying back, and I got a call that they needed a medevac. And so I went in and picked it up, and it happened to be a dog that was being medevaced.
A dog?
A dog.
Oh, okay.
But they were as important to some units as the people in there. It was a canine unit, and so I took the dog back to Benoit. There's a veterinary post there.
Oh, veterinary. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So that was my only medevac of a dog. But and a lot of times, we'd be out in the field, and if we were taking ammo or supplies in and people needed to be moved out to go to the hospital, or they'd been in a firefight and they had wounded, we'd take those out.
Oh, okay. Now, I've interviewed a number of Vietnam vets so far, and I've heard this sort of consistently, that after the first big Tet Offensive in '68, that the U.S. was starting to turn the war into a winning war. Was that your experience in '69? Because they were dropping leaflets, they were getting Viet Cong to surrender.
Yeah,
I mean, things were changing.
Things were changing. Yeah, I was part of the group that dropped leaflets.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, it's just another one of those missions they call and they say, okay, today you're dropping leaflets, and I think they're Chu Hoi leaflets.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Could you read them?
Yeah, it was English on one side,
both languages. Yeah.
Vietnamese on the other. But I don't know that I knew enough about the politics and stuff at the time of. I would say yes, in '69, things were looking better.
Because you were there a whole year, so you obviously could have observed.
Right, there were posts that, we were in areas that we would consider friendly, and, yeah. So it was turning. I mean, I don't know that I personally at the time, but as I look back, it's probably.
Okay.
We were flying in and out of areas by the end of '69 that probably were more
enemy held before?
Yeah,
or
more troublesome.
More troublesome, yeah. Okay. So some of the leaflet thing was, and the surrenders thing, some of those things might have been working where they didn't work in '66 and '67.
I thought, we're dropping all these leaflets. I don't know if they're going to give up or get more upset because we're trashing their yards.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because there was tens of thousands of leaflets.
Right.
Oh, gosh. So what was the Korean White Horse incident that you told me about?
Well, that was '72.
Oh, I get this out of sequence. I thought I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So into '69, I went back and spent Christmas in Atlanta.
Like you did every year.
Every year.
You told me you made Christmas.
I never missed a Christmas at home.
With all these tours.
Yeah,
It just worked out that way.
Right.
Okay.
So spent Christmas, and then I was supposed to go on live in Atlanta and go on a speaking tour for the Army to promote the war, and Kiwanis clubs and schools and et cetera. And I was on orders to go to Fort Rucker, but these orders were supposed to supersede the Fort Rucker orders.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't come in, so I went down and signed into Fort Rucker.
This is still 1970, right?
This is 1970, yeah,
Okay.
January 1970.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
So I went down to Fort Rucker and signed in, and then the orders came through to do the speaking tour.
Oh, okay.
And I said, no, you know, I'm already here.
Yeah.
I'm signed as a flight instructor, and I don't want to have to move back to Atlanta now. We gave up the apartment and
Well,
everything
Fort
else.
Rucker's in Alabama?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I said, I'll just stay down here. And so I stayed there, and I was an instrument flight instructor,
Okay.
which was really a good life because typically class would start at noon on Monday and go about 3.5 weeks, and every week it started at noon on Monday. So I'd either fly in the morning or the afternoon, and I'd have either Friday noon off for the weekend, or I didn't have to go back in until Monday noon. So I mean, it was a great life. So Jen and I did a lot of camping and fishing in South Alabama, and
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Good time to be there, I guess.
Yeah.
So what were the aircraft that you flew down there?
Those were the TH-13 train helicopters, a 13. I think Bell, but I'm not sure anymore.
Oh, okay. So what were the circumstances that you got reassigned in for the 60th Assault Helicopter Company?
So I was training people in Fort Rucker, and I got orders for Vietnam again.
Yeah.
And
Could they do that? I mean, were you eligible for that, or did you?
you're only guaranteed a year or two at home, and they
Oh.
can turn you around.
Oh, okay.
And so I asked them why I was going back to Vietnam, because a lot of the guys I was training were going to Germany and other places. And they said, we need your experience back there.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, they sent me back. Well, I said I need something for me en route, you know, some kind of training or whatever. So they gave me fixed wing training. So that's when they trained me in the airplane. So I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and transitioned into fixed wing. So I came out of there with a multi-engine instrument ticket, commercial, as well as tailwheel experience and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got that. So I thought, well, maybe I'll fly fixed wing in Vietnam. Well, I got to Vietnam. They assigned me to the 60th Assault Helicopter Company.
Is this your shoulder patch?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, I went down there, and they transitioned me to be a flight instructor in the Huey down there. So I was a flight instructor there. It was kind of interesting getting in there because when I landed in Cameron Bay, again, I didn't know what unit I was going to. I could have gone anywhere.
North or south? Huh?
North or south. I could have been back with the 20th Engineer Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
Saigon, yeah.
And because when you went in there, they basically assigned you based on needs of a unit.
Of the units, yeah, okay.
So they said they were going to assign me to, I forget what the battalion was, but I had to go to play coup to sign in up there.
Yeah.
And then they said they were going to assign me to the 60th. And so I had to kind of hitch a ride up to play coup. And then from play coup, hitch a ride down to Ankei, where the battalion was. And I forget, I guess it was a group in play coup, whatever, but anyway, down to the battalion. And they said they were going to assign me to the 60th Assault Helicopter Company in Ningwa. And they said, go down to the pad and catch a ride down to Ningwa. And I said, you know what? I said, I've been traveling for several days. And I said, do you have an officers club here? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, then I'm going to go over there and drink some beer. And when you find me a ride going south, 'cause, you know, in the second tour, I was fairly senior captain.
Oh, okay.
And I said, "Well, you find me a ride, come get me."
Yep.
So, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours later, Sergeant came in and said, "Captain Alford, we got your ride going south." So,
Yeah.
I said, "Fine." So,
At least you got 3 hours of R&R then.
yeah, they took me and put my stuff in a Jeep, took me down to the helipad, and I got on a helicopter, and it was a Ghost Rider helicopter. They'd been working the area, and now they're headed south, so they probably said, "Hey, stop, you got a passenger to go south with you." And it's kind of interesting because the pilot that was flying that day said, "Oh no, another real live officer coming down." I wasn't a warrant officer. And there's a little, back and forth there.
Oh, okay.
And so he was showing me all of his skills and maneuvers, I guess, trying to whatever on the way down there. And that was fine. And so I went in, signed in there to the major, and the major said, "We're going to need you to start flying right away. So, get checked out or whatever."
Yeah.
I said, "I've been on the road for quite a while." I said, "Do you have an officers club here?" "Oh," he said, we don't have a room for you yet, but,
No room.
yeah.
We need you, but we have no room for you.
So I said, "I'm going to be in the officers club when you find me a room and I have time to write a letter, tell my wife where I am." So
Yeah, you're fine, yeah.
I said, "Then I'll start flying for you." So I didn't start flying till the next day.
Oh, okay.
And then the warrant officer that had brought me down, it turned out he was a little bit wild, so the CEO said, "I'm going to assign you to him as a co-pilot,
Oh,
give you country orientation and that sort of thing." And so again, he was showing me all the tricky stuff he could do with a helicopter, and I said, "That's fine." And then I don't know, about 30 days later or so, it was time for his check ride, and I was an instructor pilot.
wow.
So
Things came around.
yeah, but he turned out to be a good friend. And
So Ninwa was up north of Kamran Bay, right? Up
north
here?
of, a little north of Natrang. Yeah.
Okay. I had this little,
Cameron Bay. And
You're
then,
pretty far north compared to where you were in the first tour.
so we were in 2 Corps. So we flew, as Ghost Riders, we flew all of 2 Corps.
Okay.
And that's when we were supporting the White Horse Division, the Koreans.
Oh, the one you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we lived on
Or
a
I
Korean
mentioned-
we lived on a Korean base, and
Oh, okay.
they provided all of our security.
Okay.
And then we did combat assaults, resupply, medevac, et cetera, for the Koreans.
Okay. Did when I was reading up on your 60th Aviation Company, I found out that the 48th Aviation Company preceded it, but it was decimated.
Yeah, they were
That must have been
stationed.
some rough time the previous year.
They were stationed in Ninwa, and then, and that was during the
The Tet.
Tet.
Yeah, in
And,
'68. Okay.
And Lamsan, I think, too, was part of it. And so they got into a lot of bad stuff, and they relocated them somewhere, and then brought the 60th in, and then the 60th was the cavalry. I think it was 227th stood down, so that became the 60th. So they basically changed flags, and that was the 60th. So a lot of the guys that were there when I first went in there had flown for the cavalry.
Oh, okay.
And so we were doing the same thing the cavalry was doing there. Interesting point there is that Bob, who was my officer candidate school friend and flight school,
You've known all these years, yeah.
he was executive officer for the 48th.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So he was the 48th when you were at the 20th down in Saigon?
yeah,
Okay.
and then Curtis, my other buddy and roommate,
Yeah.
had flown for the, I believe it's the 189th, and he was a Ghost Rider. So so I'd gone to Ninwa after Bob, and I was flying as a Ghost Rider after Curtis.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't see either one of them while I was in country.
You just had those connections, but they were before and after.
No, so I didn't see him
Yeah.
until after we got back to the States.
Okay. So what types of missions were you flying out of Ninois?
These were combat assault, resupply,
Okay.
medevac.
Rescue. Oh, rescue. Okay.
Yeah, whatever the Koreans needed. And we may not know until that morning when we went down to operations. So you're flying, might be flying the Korean general today. Or you
Was
might
it so they had a Korean command there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was their headquarters right
Okay.
there.
Okay. That's what they called them, White Horse? I mean, that was
White Horse Division, yeah.
White Horse Division?
Yeah.
Was that something that came from Korea? I mean, something that meant
Yeah,
something back there?
that was a, I think they may still have a White Horse Division. That was a really prestigious fighting
That's good.
group.
That's good to know that.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we flew for the Koreans, we got mortared one time in a year, and
That's like nothing.
they spread out, went up the direction the mortars came from, and
Wow.
we don't know what they did, but they didn't always follow the Geneva Convention, so we never got mortared again. When I flew out of Benoit, we got mortared or rocketed almost every night.
Yeah.
So that
You were in the city.
I was in
I mean,
the
in
city.
the big
Yeah.
population area, but you were surrounded, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So in '72, you're talking about things changing in '69. In '72, it was going the other direction.
Yeah. They were kind of pulling back supplies and.
Right. Cameron Bay closed down.
Oh yeah, I remember. I heard that. Yeah.
The hospitals were getting further apart, where so if somebody got hurt, you had to fly further. Parts, supplies, stuff were getting tougher to get.
Yeah.
So
And you knew there was thinking behind this too.
yeah, I mean,
To allow this to happen.
we knew that they were going to pull out at some point, and
Yeah.
about midway through my tour there, they made me the operations officer.
Okay.
I still flew missions and everything, but I had more coordination. But I saw the orders come down for how they were going to shut down and evacuate Vietnam. And it said on the orders that the Koreans would leave before we did in Ninois. And
I mean, quite a jolt for the Koreans to leave.
yeah, I went into the major. I said, "Hey, did you see this? What are we going to do?" He said, "Well, we'll just stay here and protect the helicopters." I told him, I said, "You may stay, but I said I'm going with the Koreans. When their trucks pull out, I'm going to be on one of them." I said, "You can probably bet your ass that a lot of the guys are going to be going with me." So, fortunately, I got out of there before they shut down the unit. I left there in latter part of December, before Christmas, maybe the 20th.
Before the 25th, though.
Before the 25th, I got home for Christmas, and
This is a record.
and they shut down the unit in March. So my fear at the time was that they would extend me, which they had the right to do and the power to do. They could have extended me until the unit shut down.
Yeah.
And I was just praying I'd get out of there before that happened. So fortunately I did.
Was this happening to other people too? Was there a little bit more of relaxation for people not to be forced to be extended? Or maybe it's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I felt I was vulnerable because I was the operations officer.
Yeah, a key position. Yeah.
And one of the senior officers there. And
Okay.
but anyway, that's pretty much my history there. After I left Vietnam, I flew back to San Francisco, and Janet met me there, and I went down to the Army base there. APO, I think they call it. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Well, Presidio?
Presidio.
Yeah. Okay.
Went down there and got mustered out of the Army. So here's your back pay, here's your flight ticket home, and
Well, I did want to do one
Good luck.
reflection. One reflection. Would be a pause here, just in the editing. But I just wanted to mention something about Vietnam jungle warfare. I'll read a statement here, and
Okay.
I'll see how you react to it. It was a brutal, disorienting conflict characterized by dense vegetation, humid tropical conditions, unconventional close quarters combat. U.S. and South Vietnamese forces faced Viet Cong, guerrillas, North Vietnamese Army regulars who utilized camouflage tunnels and intimate knowledge of the terrain to conduct surprise attacks and ambushes. That was kind of the situation
That was the situation, and
that we sent our armed forces into that were not really prepared initially. They adapted.
Right.
Okay.
They adapted to it. As helicopter pilots, we flew them in, and there could be somebody that came out of a tunnel or a bush or something that took a shot at us, but we weren't in there intimately like the soldiers were. But along those lines, I mean, they had to learn how to jungle fight.
Mm-hmm.
We had to learn how to
Support.
fight with a helicopter to support them. Because I didn't realize that at the time that we were making history, that this was called the helicopter war.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we did over there was on-the-job training. You figure out.
That's probably why it did eventually start to turn, don't you think?
Could be, yeah. We learned how to move the troops. We learned how to land on pinnacles. We learned how to land on dikes. We learned what the helicopter could do and how far it would go. And so every unit I went into, there was somebody there experienced.
Yeah.
And
they could help.
They'd teach me a little bit, and then I'd learn a little bit more, and I'd teach it to the next guy, and so forth.
Yeah.
When I first got to the 20th, they were flying observation helicopter 20. They were 23s, the old. They were slow, and they were using those for scouts.
Big targets.
And then the Loach or the OH-6 came in, transitioned in. It was a turbine engine and really a sports car. You could really buzz around in it. So the 23s disappeared, which was good. I mean, one of our guys got taken down, with a kid that threw a rock at him and went through the windshield.
Took the
he had to land because the
pretty vulnerable, huh?
The windshield shattered, yeah. So it was a pretty vulnerable aircraft. You're just sitting there with it. When we got into the Loaches, it was a much better deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you got to experience all that transition too.
Yeah.
From the early days to, and what the problems were, that almost insurmountable problems, to where you were in 71 and 72.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. On the lighter side, it's been pretty heavy so far. What did you guys do for recreation?
Well, we drank.
I think we knew that.
That happened. Every place had an officers club, and if you're out flying all day long, you come back, you go to the mess hall and have dinner, and then just go down there and have a couple beers or a few beers, depending on your mood and how the day had gone and what you expected tomorrow. When we were at Benoit, the officers club, the Air Force Officers Club, was a lot better than what we had. So we'd spend time there. They had
the Army Officers Club versus the Air Force.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was a PX there you could visit. They had various USO shows and stuff coming through. I never saw Bob Hope, but but they had various shows you could go to. So there was always something to do there if you were off duty.
Yeah.
We had one guy, Ski Lewandowski. He was a fixed wing pilot there. So we had fixed wing in the 20th, but that was before I was rated.
Yeah.
And but I used to fly with him. I just loved to fly, and I didn't want to sit around and do nothing. So if I wasn't flying, having a helicopter mission one day, he flew a Beaver, and he flew around, did the mail route. And he used to get got in earlier than most of the helicopter pilots, so he'd land at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, if there was a good show going on, then his job was to go over and get a table, save it for us.
Yeah. So you come in later and you got a table waiting for you. Yeah.
So I don't think Ski ever saw a show because he was usually passed out by the time the
He
show
started too early in the day.
He started too early. But he was a great guy, and I loved flying with him, and we'd fly all over the 2 and 3 Corps, picking up mail and depositing mail. And there's another situation where we were flying out to a unit, and I guess it was the first sergeant came out and he said, "Crank it up, the colonel's coming out. We're going to take him out there." And I said, "Where's the mail?" I'd flown, these routes enough that I said, "Where's the mail bag?" He said, "We don't have time to get that." I said, "These guys have been out in the woods for a long time and they haven't had their mail. They haven't heard from home."
Yeah.
I said, "Go get the mail bag." And he said, "We don't have time." So the colonel came out, and I hadn't cranked the helicopter. And the colonel came up to the window and he said, "Jim, what's going on?" I said, "The sergeant said you don't have time to get the mail, to take the mail out to the guys." And he said, "Yes, we do."
Yes, we do.
And the sergeant went back and got the mail bags, and brought them out, and then I cranked the helicopter. And he was a good colonel. I mean, he was a good guy. Some of the people we flew weren't quite as nice, but he believes in his troops, and he was good.
Supports them.
And I mean, they weren't going to give me any problems. I was the aircraft commander. It didn't crank unless I said it did.
Yeah.
And he was the same colonel that we flew into, I think it was Bearcat, which is a little north of Benoit, Saigon area.
Yeah.
And we flew in and we landed on a helipad, and all these posts, the engineers be at one spot and artillery be at one spot and infantry be a spot. And he said, "This isn't a pad for the engineers." He said, "That's up about 200 or 300 yards." So I picked up the hover and moved up to the next pad, and as we were landing up there, the pad we'd initially landed on got mortared. So they had it all zeroed in and were waiting for us. So those were the kind of times.
Incidents.
I mean, it wasn't my day, it wasn't my time.
Yeah.
But I probably had a couple beers that evening. Yeah.
More than one.
More. But yeah, most guys I flew for were pretty good. I mean, occasionally there'd be people, usually majors or lieutenant colonels, typically, that they had their wings, they got transition, but they were working a desk job.
Yeah, they weren't flying. Yeah.
And they'd tell us, "Oh, so-and-so needs to get their minimums in today, so go over and pick them up and they'll fly with you today."
Oh, just get the hours in.
Just to get the hours in until they get their aviation pay.
Yeah.
And that wasn't our favorite thing to do. And those were the kind of ones that typically, if you're going to run into somebody that was a problem, it'd be the desk jockeys. And, and they probably got more air medals and, with the V device, et cetera, than any of us that are flying day to day, because they probably went back and wrote themselves up for.
Oh, well, they had the typewriters.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that was my sense.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one.
So
what kinds of friendships and camaraderie did you form serving, and who with?
Well, that was kind of interesting. I think the mentality was don't get too close to people, either consciously or unconsciously. I realized later, 30, 35 years after I got back from Vietnam and I started getting together with some of the people, I realized I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know if they had a college education. I might have known if they were married or not, but I didn't know if they had children.
Yeah.
I knew if they were a good pilot, I could tell you that.
Yeah.
35 years later, whether I wanted to fly with them or not, or how they did on their check rides and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't know a lot about them, and I don't know if that's good or bad.
Probably at the time it was
Yeah.
good not to have too much
The
background.
two guys that I was good friends with, I never flew with in Vietnam, and we phoned and visited until they both passed away. But yeah, the other guys I didn't see until I got back, and like I say, 35 years later, my crew chief found me, and he and I started talking, and then we started putting names and places together, and there were guys that I'm sure I drove by their house or within 10 miles of their house that I'd served with, and didn't know they lived there or where they were, or anything. There wasn't like a roster. I mean, they started putting together more. You could search for somebody or find somebody, and
like
later years. But when I first got out, I went back to university to finish my undergraduate and graduate school, and
you got an MBA from Georgia State, right?
Yeah, I did. But you couldn't talk about Vietnam. I mean, it was still a bad subject.
Well, it wasn't over yet.
It wasn't over, and you couldn't talk about it. So I ended up selling my medals and my uniforms and everything at a garage sale, or I used them to paint in or whatever. So, and I didn't even know what all I'd won. I mean, when I left Vietnam, they gave me a Bronze Star, I guess, or what.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up with 2 Bronze Stars just for being there.
Yep. Because you had 2 tours, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So then somebody said, well, you could write off this place and they'll send you your records and et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
So I did, and it turns out I had several medals and air medals with, 23 air medals, and just.
You didn't find out till you got your DD-214 or your other
my
types?
updated DD-214.
You were updated, yes. Yeah. Because you had 2, I think.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how you found out?
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't that interested before, and I guess I started getting more interested as I got older. So, but yeah, going back to university was, here I am now. I'm 26 years old, sitting in freshman biology class
with kids.
Kids. And they're saying, where have you been?
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Navy.
So anyway, so I finished up my undergraduate in animal science.
Oh.
And I got a job at the University of Georgia working in laboratory animal medicine there, taking care of animals and stuff.
So you were working with veterinarians, or?
Yeah, working with veterinarians. I was a technician, technologist, and I don't know, somehow that's the field I ended up going into, and I decided there was a need for business administration, so then I got my master's in business administration
at Georgia State.
Continued in lab animal medicine, and that's how I got to Michigan. I was hired by the University of Michigan as associate director of laboratory animal medicine. So that's
how you wound up in Michigan then, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
And you were at Emory University too?
I went from
Atlanta?
Georgia to, then I got a job at Emory University, and then University of Michigan.
So, did you have any injuries or combat-related health conditions as a result of the 2 tours?
I didn't have any injuries. I'm 90% disabled by the Veterans Administration now.
Oh, okay.
Primarily PTSD and things related to that, and some joint and other issues. So far, there's nothing that's Agent Orange related that I'm aware of.
Yeah, well, after all this time,
Yeah.
you're probably safe.
Yeah.
So did you use the GI Bill to go to Georgia and Georgia State and
I did.
so forth?
I used a GI Bill, and I forget how much. It's maybe $300 a month, something like that. So I
Yeah.
paid more than paid for my tuition and
Yeah. Well, tuition was lower in those days.
yeah, tuition and rent and stuff. And I had a part-time job, and Janet had a job working in a daycare. So then our son Jimmy got to go there
Oh, okay.
free because she worked there.
Oh, you both had a bill.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jimmy's, I mean, his birth story is kind of unique in that I was flying in '72, June '72. We'd been on a mission all day, and I don't remember what the mission was, but flying back that night and flying down from Ankei down to Ninawa.
Mm-hmm.
And we had choice, we'd go over the mountains or we could go out to sea a little bit and fly around the mountains. We decided we'd fly what we called feet wet, which is off the coast a little bit, where it was safer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we tried to stay within gliding distance of the beach
loss
if
of
we
engines.
could. Yeah. But anyway, we were flying down, and I got a call on guard, which is the universal frequency, radio frequency.
Oh, for distress?
For any emergencies.
Okay.
And I got a call on guard. It said, Ghost Rider 3, this is Natrang radio. We have a message from the American Red Cross, which, is not usually good news of American Red Cross. And they said, we want to let you know you have a son.
Oh, what a way to hear it. Yeah. Wow.
And wife and son are doing okay. So it was on guard. So probably the universal okay on guard, you click the mic twice. So,
oh, okay.
So from all over Vietnam, I heard click, 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 click. So everybody that was listening that night heard about the birth announcement. And it was probably 2-3 days later that I could get to a phone and call Janet and said, we really have a baby, and was it a boy, and what'd you name it? She said I had no choice. It was a boy. I named it Jimmy. So,
but he's not. How many Jims are there?
I'm junior. He's the third.
Third, okay.
His son's the fourth.
Oh, okay. That's 4 so far.
Yeah. So that was kind of a different story. The only other time I got a call from National Red Cross is I was in flight school. I was out at Fort Walters, and the CO, we get in formation when we arrived in the morning before we went off to classes or flight.
Yeah.
We were in formation. The CO called me up and said, the Red Cross called. And this is in front of all the other officers there. And the Red Cross called, and your mother wants you to call home. So I went in the orderly room. I called. I said, Mom, what's going on? She said, I just haven't heard from you. I said, well, whoa. You said if I ever needed to talk to you, I'd call the Red Cross, and they'd get.
You said
it. And that was before cell phones or anything, So she said, I just wanted to see how you're doing. So I said, I'm doing fine, Mom, but try to save this for emergencies from now on.
Wow. So you started talking about meeting some friends from the Army, but did you ever go to actual reunions or special trips?
I've never been to an official, like the Vietnam Helicopter Pilot Association reunion. I've never done that. We did have a reunion of Ghost Riders, our 50th reunion.
50th, wow.
So that was 2021 or something? Somewhere in there. We had that down at Fort Rucker, Alabama. So we went through the museum, and then we had, we got together and had dinner and, swapped some stories and stuff like that. Previous to that, I'd done a Veterans Day program in Chelsea. And some of the Ghost Riders came in and we all did a part of it. We had a gunship pilot here who flew this particular mission. I had my crew chief here that'd flown the mission, and myself.
Yeah.
And so the mission was we got called at midnight. There was an American aircraft down with survivors that needed to be medevaced. And medevac wouldn't go in for some reason, so clouds were low and stuff, so they sent us. So I flew the Huey, and we had 2 gunships support. And so we flew over, and it was a little north of Natrang, and we landed on an airstrip that had refueling, but no security. And so we topped off there, and we were waiting. There's supposed to be a Jolly Green Giant come in and help lift them out.
Yeah.
And they didn't come in, and we looked around the best we could. But the clouds were getting lower and lower, and so finally we decided we either going to spend the night here with no security or fly out. So I talked it over with all the pilots, and they said they opted to fly out. And so I said, I'll fly out first. I'll tell you where the clouds begin and where they end, because it's night, and it's, you don't know you're in them until you're in them. And so I flew out and came out on top, and I called them back, and they lifted off, and one of the Cobras came through and the other one didn't. And we saw a big glow where they'd hit and exploded. They'd gotten disoriented.
Oh.
And so that was about midnight. So there was nothing we could do, so we flew back to base, and then the next morning, about daylight, I flew back out and recovered the bodies and took them to body identification stuff.
Yeah.
And, but that was, again, it wasn't combat related, but it was the kind of stuff that helicopter pilots and crew did over there that whether you got shot down or got disoriented in a tree or had an engine failure or whatever, you're always stressing or going more than you should, because you had to.
You had to, yeah. Conditions.
Right.
Yeah, yep. Have you ever visited the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're thinking of the wall.
Yeah, the memorial wall.
Yes, I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
And I was also at, what's the cemetery name? Arlington Cemetery, when they put the plaque in there for helicopter crews.
Oh, okay.
I was there when they dedicated that.
Okay. Did you have a lot of other crew members or helicopter guys there too?
There were.
At that ceremony? There
were probably 4 of us there from the 60th.
Okay.
Again, there may have been more, but we didn't have a sign that said 60th Assault Helicopter, that people could gather around.
Yeah.
Some of the units were smart enough to do that, but we weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, I just found out when I was doing some background that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund now has a system to match names with photographs. That's
really?
Something that I haven't even tried it, but I just heard about that when I was just doing some background stuff here. So, yeah.
Yeah. So there's, it's hard when you're flying. Like we had the 60th was a small unit.
Yeah.
We probably had 100 people. If the crews, maintenance,
pilots and ground crew,
and stuff. Probably 100 people there, so it wasn't that many people.
Yeah.
And
you're still represented at this event.
Well, we lost 6 people the year I was there.
Oh, okay.
And so that's 6 to 10% of the people. Most of it was just accidents because, again, things happen when you're flying in those conditions.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So being there, how many people passed through that flew for the 60th that weren't there?
That didn't make that particular event.
The year I was there. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered yet?
Well, I think you really have to take your hat off for the wives and families that were back home and supported us.
Especially when you think of what they were exposed to from the news and the protest. I mean, all the other stuff going on had nothing to do with the war.
Well, they got blasted by the news of everything was going on, and the body count for the day and all that. And my wife had phone calls from so-called friends that said, "Oh, helicopter pilot's only good for 20 seconds or 30 seconds over there." Those kind of calls.
Oh gosh.
And
former friends.
Former friends. And conversely, when we were in Vietnam, we got news of all the race riots and all the other stuff going on, and and I knew what my situation was. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm better off over here than she is back there. Atlanta's burning, whatever.
And Detroit.
And Detroit's burning. And you realize that the news going both ways isn't exactly accurate of what's happening.
Yeah. That was tough. Yeah. I think even though that was many 60 years ago, we still remember all that. Yeah. And of course, the way they portrayed it in movies was even worse.
I think the best movie, if somebody wants to watch a movie, the best representation, at least my life in the military, was We Were Soldiers Then and Young.
Who was in that? We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers Then and Young. It was a book written by Joe.
I've read it myself.
Have you read that? Is that
Yes.
You agree?
I don't remember the author though, but it was Mel
Joe
Gibson
Galloway.
in the movie.
Joe Galloway.
Oh, okay.
It was about Joe Galloway and Colonel Moore, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then they made it a movie, We Were Soldiers Then and Young, and you can probably watch it on.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Yeah, thank you.
But for Janet and my life, both at the Army post and when I was overseas and stuff, that was probably most representative.
Well, it's good to know that.
Yeah. She didn't live on post while I was gone, but
Right.
but yeah, you had to have the Officers' Wives Club. You had to wear gloves and etc. So
Okay.
I don't have anything else unless you have some
great.
specific questions. Or
Now, just want to thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent job. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.